Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome back, everyone, to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
I want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. We are just 2 weeks away from the unprecedented, historic, undisputed versus undisputed Canelo Alvarez against Jermell Charlo, Saturday, September 30th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, live on Showtime pay-per-view. This week on Toe to Toe, Mike and I will discuss who has more on the line between Canelo and Charlo. The answer may not be so obvious, but first, let's bring in our guest this week. He is a former 140-pound titleist. He's now campaigning at welterweight, where he'll take on Yordenis Ugas in an explosive matchup on the Canelo-Charlo pay-per-view card. El Azteca, Mario Barrios. Mario, how you been, man?
I'm good, bro. I can't complain. Been out here in Vegas now these last few months, just getting ready.
How excited are you to be, back in a big fight against a big name?
Oh, very. Man, I'm always, excited, to get these calls, for these type of fights. But especially, man, just being on, this, a fight card of this magnitude.
Yeah, definitely. At what point did you know it was Ugas, and were you looking at anybody else as a potential opponent?
I got the word it was gonna be Ugas back in, I think, like April or May, and then the fight fell through, and I think he was looking to fight with Thurman, but then the fight got put back on, so it was kind of like in this stop and go type thing. But I mean, I was just staying ready, for whatever name was brought up.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on Ugas as a fighter?
I think he's a great fighter. I think he doesn't have an easy style to look good against. He has a very he has a tight defense. He has a long reach, and he throws punches that you don't that aren't very conventional. So I think he has a lot of things that make him great. But everything we're working on in the boxing gym, I think if I go out there and just execute that, stick to our game plan, I shouldn't have a problem walking out with the victory.
So you just led me into my next question. So in your opinion, what advantages do you hold over him?
I think my age, my height and length. I think the fact that I've been more active. So I mean that's one of the things I really want to take advantage of. He had the layoff because of his eye. So I think me being active is going to be one of the biggest things.
This is your third fight at 147, I think, which makes us wonder, looking at you, how in the world did you make 140?
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Actually, I turned pro at 124. And so it was just, over the years, I kept growing. I kept filling out more. And then, yeah, I remember, when I started working with Virgil Hunter, when I was like 21, that was, one of his, kind of like one of his conditions that he told me, if me and him we're going to be working together, I was going to fight at 140. And so that's why all those years with Virgil, I fought at 140, and I was comfortable, for a long time. And then, the last couple fights on 140, it just became harder and harder, to get down in weight. And then I was really gonna make the move up to welterweight, but then the Tank fight was presented to me, and that was not an opportunity, that I wasn't gonna turn down. But now I'm at now I'm at welterweight, and I'm gonna try to stay here, for as long as I can.
You looked really explosive against Giovanni Santiago. I mean, speed, your power, the combinations. Is that how it felt to you? Like in the ring, like did you feel more explosive against him?
I did, like the first couple rounds, I felt like, I kind of, was shaking off that like ring rust because I had it was almost exactly a year since the Thurman fight. But I felt very explosive and very very reactive. So I was happy with the performance that I gave back home in San Antonio.
So do you feel like you're a full-fledged 147 pounder, or are you still growing into the division?
I feel like I'm definitely just a full-fledged 147 pounder now.
All right, very good. You had I'm sorry, you're still only 28, but you've had some pretty big fights in your career. What did you take from those experiences?
I was able, to take away a lot, from a boxing standpoint, from just, fighting on these, huge cards, getting that exposure, being under those bright lights with, thousands of people, in the audience. So I think, everything that, has taken place in my last few fights, I think, it's going to take everything that I've learned, to come out, with the victory in this fight. Because, I mean, it's another, really, really, stacked card. I've never fought on a Canelo undercard before, but I've been to plenty of Canelo fights, and the ambiance in those arenas, it gets crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So you had the losses to Davis and to Thurman. How did you get? I'm sure physically you're fine, obviously, but how did you get through that emotionally?
It was difficult for for a while, especially after the Thurman fight, because that was supposed to be my fight, to bounce back and prove myself. And then I was kind of like written off for a little bit, but I keep a solid team with me. My family, I have a close knit of friends, that I've had since like high school. So I think just having a solid support system, to help keep me grounded, and and then my team, when it comes to boxing, them just continuing on believing in me. I think all of that, all of the people that I surround myself with, they played a really big part.
After that Thurman fight, you switched trainers. You switched to Bob Santos. This is your second fight working with Bob. Can you tell us how it's been, the relationship between you two, and how it's been working with him?
It's been great. Bob has actually he's been part of my team, since the very beginning when I turned pro. So like in those earlier fights, he was the one, that was, the coach in my corner. And then it was after my 15th fight, that's when, we made the decision, to go to the Bay Area, with Virgil. And, I'm super happy with it, everything that we accomplished together. But, I feel like me being 28, these next few years are going to be really important for me. So, what better place to be at, than Vegas. This is the fight capital. So right now I'm very happy, with the work that I get out here and the work that I put in with Bob.
What specifically have you guys worked on to sort of improve about your game?
Nothing even too crazy. Just kind of even just going back to a lot of the fundamentals, going back to a lot of the things that got me this far in the first place, and kind of going back to being an aggressive fighter. I've always had great boxing ability, but now I think I'm more dangerous of a boxer puncher than ever.
Ugas is like one of the most popular guys in terms of just like being well liked in the sport. How do you approach a guy like that? It's impossible to hate this guy. Do you have to create special motivation yourself to get up for a guy like that?
Not really. I think for that reason, as a person, he is a really cool dude. Like before this fight was made, we had supported each other at several fights. You know, it's just business. You know, he's standing, you know, in the way of, you know, me taking, you know, that next leap, you know, in the division. You know, so it's just all business. You know, I know, you know what he's capable of. You know, when he steps in there, and but yeah, I mean, you know, there's no bad blood, or you know, I don't dislike Ugas. It's just like I said, you know, we're just you know, it's a big opportunity for him as well. So you know, I know he's probably looking at it the same way.
Right. So, do you have like something in your mind that tells you how the fight's going to play out?
Oh, yeah, you know, I visualize the way, you know, the fight could play out, you know. Um, but you know, I think in any way I see it right now, you know, it's gonna be, you know, an exciting fight. Like I said, I know I'm gonna, you know, have to bring, you know, all the tools and, you know, and everything that I've learned up to this point, you know, to come out with the victory, because it's not an easy fight.
Are you looking to make a statement here? Are you trying to get the knockout?
I'm not necessarily looking at a knockout, but I mean, you know, if I do see at any point, you know, I get him hurt, like you said, I mean, I am trying to make a statement. I am, you know, trying to win, but you know, not only win, but you know, win in extraordinary fashion. You know, I'm still going there, you know, and try to steal the show. You know, even though, like I said, you know, the whole fight card from start to finish, you know, they're full of bangers, but you know, I'm gonna try to, you know, steal the show.
This is such a big fight for you. I mean, and an opportunity because of how wide open 147 is right now. We don't know what Terrence Crawford is going to do, whether he'll rematch Errol Spence. Maybe it'll be at 154. Do you see that as like that kind of opportunity for you? Like you might be the next wave of top champions at 147. Do you sort of see it that way?
Exactly. You know, of course, you know, everything, you know, depends on, you know, what Crawford ends up doing. You know, he's definitely, you know, he's a shot caller right now. But if he ends
We
up, you know,
lost you.
vacating,
Or did I lose?
yeah,
Okay.
if he ends up vacating, then you know that leaves, you know, the division, you know, wide open. And so yeah, you know, I'm trying to be, you know, that next wave of champions, you know, in the welterweight division.
Last question for you, man. With that in mind, assuming you win this fight, name your top three guys. Who would you like to face next?
Oh, anybody really. You know, first things first, you know, got to handle business, and you know, given we come out with the win, you know, we'll sit down with my team. But you know, I'm not looking, you know, to take, you know, any tuna fights, you know, you know, I want to continue, you know, to fight the best. You know, I want to do, you know, whatever it takes to get, to get a full, you know, world title shot, at welterweight.
Well, we can't wait. We're so excited that you're back. We know it's going to be a great, great fight. So, Mario, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us. Wishing you all the best on September 30th, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, same guys. I appreciate you guys, you know, taking time as well.
All right,
Good luck. Good luck, man.
For the first time ever, reigning undisputed kings fight on boxing's biggest stage.
I'm the king.
Mexican icon and pound-for-pound all-time great, Canelo Alvarez, takes on the elite superstar set on making history, Jermell Charlo.
The power is for real.
Two kings, one throne, no mercy.
Championship heart on display.
Canelo versus Charlo for the undisputed world title. Saturday, September 30th, live on pay-per-view.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe. This week we asked Canelo-Charlo, for whom are the stakes higher? Both guys have a lot riding on a victory on September 30th, obviously. But Mike, who has more on the line?
Well, first, I just want to reiterate what you just said, just to make it clear. You know, this is an enormous fight for both guys. But I think there is more at stake for Canelo. You know, he had the loss to Bivol and then back-to-back so-so performances against Gennady Golovkin and John Ryder. Everyone is saying that he's slipped, he's in decline, that he isn't what he used to be. If he loses this fight, particularly if the setback is a clear setback, you know, it would be his second loss in 4 fights and confirm the notion that he's in decline. You know, no more titles, no more pound for pound. How does he recover from that if that happens? He's always going to be a drawing power because of his track record and his name, but he might be just a loss away from becoming like a faded veteran fighter just hanging on. He said on his behalf, he said injuries played a role in his struggles, and he says he's healthy now, which he insists will be reflected in his performance on September 30th. If he's right and he wins, he will have reclaimed some of the respect that he's lost, over the past couple of years. If he loses, the Canelo we've come to know might be gone.
What about how he wins? Does that matter in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. If he struggles in this fight to win, let's say like in the last couple fights, now I know that Charlo's a level above this version of Golovkin and John, a couple levels above John Ryder. But still, if he ekes out a win, he struggles, he doesn't look good, I think the naysayers are still going to be out. But there's a big difference between, winning ugly and losing. I think losing would be a lot more damaging. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to win ugly either. It could just be a great battle, between two elite guys.
So maybe that leads to a rematch, and maybe we have a whole different story. Yeah,
absolutely. What about Charlo though? How much does he have riding on this?
Well, I think Charlo has a lot to gain, but not as much to lose. Make no mistake, this is a gargantuan opportunity for Charlo. If he wins this fight, moving up 2 divisions, taking down a future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer, it would be a historic accomplishment for him. It would clinch his spot in the Hall of Fame. If he's not already there, he might already be there now. And it would leave no doubt that he's one of the best fighters of his generation. How many guys get this kind of opportunity, particularly against a guy who's deemed vulnerable at this point? Very, very few guys get that chance. And if he loses the fight, so what? I think I mentioned this on an earlier broadcast, but I'll repeat it. He could just say, and I'm just quoting what he might be thinking afterward. Hey, I did, what more boxers should do. I took a tremendous risk in order to do something truly special. People keep using the term dare to be great. It didn't work out, but I'm not going to regret giving it a shot. Then Charlo moves back down in weight and continues to dominate guys his size. So again, I think a lot to gain if he wins and not so much to lose.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a tough one for me. I mean, I can see why you and so many people feel Canelo has a lot more at stake, and it's probably true, right? A loss here, and folks might think the end is at hand for him, as you alluded to, but I feel like he has the option for a rematch. Whereas if Jermell were to lose, Canelo would likely move on to another opponent. You know what I mean? Well, folks might say Jermell can always go back down to 154. But I think that's easier said than done. Obviously we'll wait to see what he weighs in at at the weigh-in, but it's tough to go down in weight, especially 2 divisions. I think about Roy Jones, I think about Chris Bird. I think, in the higher, maybe in the lower weights it's a little easier, but I feel like every example in the higher weights moving back down wasn't that easy. I watched Jermell give an interview with Chava Rodriguez of ESPN Deportes, and Chava asked him, is this a case where you have nothing to lose? And Jermell said, I have my pride. I'm a competitor. And I was like, man, that's just a great answer. This is a big risk for him, for both guys, really. And I think what we're getting at here, I think the real answer to this question can only be produced after the fight, like when we see how the winner wins, how the loser loses. Is it a brutal KO? Is it a dominant performance? Is it an edge of your seat, back and forth? Is it a close win? There's so many variables, and I feel we have to wait and see how it plays out. What if Jermell just is elite at 168, and we get this incredible back and forth, battle of brains and wit and guts and guile. And there's so many different things that could take place that I sort of feel like, well, I got to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always a key thing is it's how things happen in the ring. But you brought up 2 really interesting points just now. You mentioned the moving up in weight, and then if things don't go well, moving back down. That's a really good point. You brought up Chris Bird. Now Chris Bird went from heavyweight down to light heavyweight, right? Which was
was it light heavyweight? Yeah, I think so. Somewhere between cruiser and light heavy. I think you're right.
It was a huge drop for him. I think that would depend on how much weight Jermell gains. If he like bulks up and he weighs in at 168, right, then I think that he might have a problem going back down to 54. I think what he would need to do, and I'm sure this is what they're doing, just weigh a natural weight. In other words, you don't have to cut weight for this fight, obviously. Just sort of weigh a natural weight, or although his natural weight might be a little higher than 168. So I'm thinking if he comes in at like 162,
right,
or 163, I think he'll be fine. That he'd be able to go down pretty easily to 154.
Yeah, and, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to, and the second part was just the opportunity. The one thing he would have to lose, I don't know if that's the way to put it, but he may never get another opportunity like this in his career. Again, so few guys get this opportunity. If he loses and this opportunity's gone, he may never get this kind of chance again. So in that sense, you got to take advantage of it. So yeah, it's huge for both guys. Absolutely huge. I just think it's bigger for Canelo.
Yeah, I agree with you. And man, I mean, I'm sure he's licking his chops at the idea of knocking out Canelo Alvarez and Jermell, I mean, and just what that would bring and what that would mean to him. Any kind of victory, really. But you're on point as far as the weight thing. I think I heard some trainer recently say that, you know, Jermell's really a 160 pounder in his opinion, that he's a really big 154 pounder. And so for him, it's not necessarily moving up 2 weight classes, but sort of like moving from middleweight to super middleweight for him. And that makes a lot of sense. I don't think he has to go that much over the middleweight limit to be effective. I certainly can understand why he probably wants to be closer to the super middleweight limit to be able to handle the size, the strength, be able to, you know, absorb shots better. But I don't want him to compromise, you know, some of his great attributes, his footwork, his hand speed and foot speed and quickness, and you know, which may be an issue. We'll see. I mean, there's just so many variables, as I said, regarding this fight. And we'll continue to discuss it in the days leading up to it. We are only a couple of weeks away now. Saturday, September 30th, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Showtime pay-per-view, Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo. I can't wait. I know you fight fans out there can't wait. And with that, that's going to do it for this week's show. We want to thank Mario Barrios for joining us. And, of course, we want to thank you guys for listening. Be sure to check us out next week for more interviews, more boxing talk right here on the PBC Podcast.